One of country music's best-kept secrets is the ever-enduring romance between longtime husband and wife Dolly Parton and Carl Dean. Everyone knows Dolly, but far fewer people would recognize Carl. Despite this, Carl has been a staple in the country legend's life for over 5 decades. Join Facts First as Dolly Parton's husband shows a glimpse of their private marriage. In the summer of 2016, country music history was made when Dolly Parton fans were finally afforded the opportunity to get a glimpse of the musician's longtime husband. Dolly met her husband Carl in 1964 and they tied the knot in '66. They're still together after all these years, and not only that, they seem to be just as in love as ever. Some may wonder why Dolly has kept her husband such a secret from the world if their marriage is such a happy one. As it turns out, the secrecy may be a big part of why their marriage has endured as long as it has. Dolly and Carl waited 2 years to marry after first meeting, but Dolly's record label wanted her to wait even longer. As legend has it, Dolly was asked by her label to postpone the marriage so she could focus on career. She met her husband upon first arriving in Nashville. She had come to the city with dreams of striking it big. She eventually did so, and Carl was by her side the whole time. Dolly took her dreams of stardom seriously, but not seriously enough to heed her record label's request not to marry her newfound love. She went through with her marriage to Carl, but she managed to keep it a secret from the record label. She did so by getting eloped. The fact that Carl and Dolly eloped loomed over their marriage, as the two wanted to have an exquisite ceremony to match their profound love. Still, their marriage proved a massive success with or without the proper ceremony. To mark the pair's 50th anniversary, they had the ceremony of their dreams. By this point, the couple had a great deal more money, which means the ceremony was even more lavish than they could have imagined. And it was at the occasion of this ceremony that allowed fans a glimpse of Dolly's longtime husband. Dolly and Carl renewed their vows after 50 years. Dolly convinced Carl to agree to have professional pictures of the ceremony taken and released publicly. She got him to agree to this by giving all the proceeds generated from the images to charity. Carl also agreed to deliver some succinct written words to the public. Via this rare public statement, Carl professed it was love at first sight when it came to him and Dolly. He said to himself as soon as he saw the future country legend that he would marry her, and he quickly went about doing so. Prior to Carl Dean finally being unveiled to the public in 2016, many speculated that Dolly Parton was lying about the man she had supposedly been married to for several decades. Many thought the country music legend made up her longtime husband in an effort to keep tabloids from prying into the true nature of her romantic life. One can imagine Dolly might be grateful for the opportunity to finally get to prove to the public Carl was very much real. When it came to making the decision to keep Carl out of the spotlight, it appears to have been a mutual decision. Carl is simply a much more private person than his more extroverted spouse, and the two respect each other's differences. It's the boundaries they've set in their marriage that they credit for how long the union has lasted. According to Dolly, it was her mother who inspired her to set strict boundaries when it came to her relationship with Carl. Dolly's mother told her to always keep a little part of her life for herself. Carl doesn't get jealous of his wife's fame, and Dolly doesn't get upset about the fact that her husband prefers his peaceful time. Keeping Carl a secret was easy for Dolly. At first, it was understandably difficult for the growingly popular Dolly Parton to maintain a veil of secrecy around her husband. However, the singer claims that eventually became second nature for her. Dolly claims her faith is another personal aspect that has helped her accept that her husband likes to stay out of the spotlight. It took a lot of convincing for Dolly to finally get Carl to publicly reveal himself, but things are different now that the veil has been pierced. Ever since Carl revealed himself to the public, he's made sporadic appearances in posts on his wife's social media. Dolly is pretty active on social media, and she loves showing pictures of her daily life. These include glimpses of Carl, though it's not something that happens every day. One notable instance occurred on Valentine's Day, a holiday that Dolly is particularly keen to share her love on. Dolly has said plenty of great things about her longtime husband in the media. In 2016, she made multiple appearances in the media speaking on the subject of her marriage. During one memorable appearance, she expressed that her and Carl were the perfect match. Dolly is a pretty exuberant person, and it's Carl's more subdued nature that helps make the couple's marriage work. Dolly believes Carl helps balance her out, and she claims she can't imagine living her life with anyone else. Though the two have been married for over 5 decades, they've certainly spent plenty of time on their own. They've never had any children, and Dolly has always been something of a workaholic. Much of her lifetime has been spent touring. Whenever Dolly is touring, Carl is stuck at home without anyone to keep him company. Still, it appears he greatly appreciates his time alone. Has Dolly been faithful to Carl over the years? Besides having to compete with Dolly's touring schedule, Carl Dean has also had to compete with some notable male figures in the country music scene when it comes to receiving his wife's attention. Dolly has brushed shoulders with some notorious womanizers during her career, including Willie Nelson. Despite rumors, Dolly claims she's remained completely faithful to her husband. She's publicly expressed that she's developed crushes on some of the figures that she's brushed shoulders with in the realm of popular entertainment. These include Sylvester Stallone and Burt Reynolds, both of whom Dolly starred alongside in musical films. Another figure with whom it was rumored she had an affair was Porter Wagner. He's the man who helped Dolly catch her big break when he offered her the chance to be a regular performer on his popular show. He was a country singer with a TV series on which he showcased his talents, and Dolly was there whenever he needed to perform a duet. Her appearance on that show turned her into a star, and she eventually grew more popular than the series itself. This angered Porter, who sued Dolly once she became a pop idol. They eventually made up before his death. Dolly claims she and Porter had a very close relationship, and her choice of words when it comes to the way the pair felt about each other has always been very careful. Still, Dolly has always refused to directly state that she was ever unfaithful to Carl Dean during the time she worked with Porter. More recently, Dolly has taken a liking to talk show personality Jimmy Fallon. Dolly loves to joke about being in love with Jimmy when she appears on his late-night program, but this is likely all just an act for the veteran performer. She had a similar repertoire with David Letterman during his time on late-night television. Dolly and Carl appreciate their time alone and apart. Dolly and Carl might have spent a great deal of their 50-plus years of marriage minding their own business, but the two have also spent plenty of romantic time together. Whenever Dolly isn't working, she returns home to her husband and they spend leisurely time together. Sometimes they go on trips across the country in their RV, sometimes they just head down the street to grab a beer and a steak. Now it's time to hear from you. Did you know Dolly Parton has been married to the same man since 1966? Let us know in the comments section below.